back again with another Defense Wins Fantasy. Week 4 is in the books. We're on the road to week 5. And I'll tell you what, we had a heck of a defensive week. Whole lot of interceptions, whole lot of sacks. We're going to get right into that with our players of the week. Followed by that, we're going to talk about a few free agent pickups that you might want to grab. And then we're going to do a little bit of it's been 4 weeks. Let's see where we're at. Top players, in the first 4 weeks. On top of that, let's do a little rookie report card with the top performers so far in the class of 2022. But as I said first, let's go ahead and start talking about the top players. And as I said, it was a great week to be a defensive player owner. Once again, Max Crosby continues his just absolute domination. He had 2 sacks this week, puts him on 4 on the year, which is half of his total all of last year. And on top of that, he has 27 total tackles, which he is essentially half of what he had all of last year as well. He's on the road of becoming that breakout player, which we expected to see this offseason. He's always been the guy that just hasn't seemed to put himself in that fantasy realm. We know he has the talent. He got paid this offseason, and he is playing up to that contract level. Next player that we're going to talk about a little near and dear to my heart, that's Nick Bosa. Had 2 sacks, 3 solo tackles. Just a great performance on Monday night. Helped me with my Monday night miracle. I was essentially tied. I was down a point going into Monday night. All I had left was Nick Bosa. My opponent had Matthew Stafford and Jalen Ramsey. And wouldn't you know, Bosa delivered, and I took home the W. I did not know if that was going to go down. I'm so happy that he was able to take care of my team. Put it on his back and just carry it on to the victory line there. Jason Owa also had a great week for the Baltimore Ravens. He had a sack, 6 tackles solo, a tackle for loss, another assisted tackle, and a forced fumble. Couple more double sack games here. We had Danico Autry yet again. That is a guy, if he's not, I know he's a little bit older, so in Dynasty Leagues, he might be out there. If he is, go ahead and go try to grab him. Samson Ebukam for the San Francisco 49ers as well had 2 sacks in that game. Zach Allen for Arizona had a sack. Dexter Lawrence had 2 sacks. A really good week if you're a defensive lineman. Moving on to the D tackles, we'll go ahead and cover that base as well. Jonathan Allen had a sack and 8 total tackles on the week. Pretty great matchup for a D tackle there. Jaron Reed, he had a sack and again 4 assisted tackles, 4 solo tackles. Quinnen Williams had a nice game with 3 solo tackles and a sack. Other people with a sack this week, Grady Jarrett, Sebastian Joseph Day, DJ Jones. A few others out there that were coming from the D tackle spot and taking care of some business. Now we're going to go into the linebackers, which Frankie says relax. I'll tell you what, man, this guy coming out of nowhere for Carolina, just destroying people. He had an interception that he took to the house. He had 5 assisted tackles, 6 solo tackles, another tackle for a loss. Just another great game by him. He is coming out and looking at one of the steals of this year. Hassan Reddick had a great game with 2 sacks. Foyesade Olokin had a great game. No big plays, but 12 total solo tackles. And then 4 more assisted for 16 total tackles on the week. 3 of those for a loss. What a great game. Rashawn Gary, another 2 sacks for him. He's coming out gangbusters this year. Tay Crowder, he might not be the best overall linebacker when it comes to ability, but he's around the ball and he's getting you tackles. 4 assisted, 7 solo, 1 of those for a loss, and a sack. Matt Milano, 11 solo tackles, 2 more assisted. Some really great games that are being played by these linebackers. It would seem like it was a very, very heavy run first kind of week. There was a lot of guys that had a lot of tackles. We start looking into the cornerbacks. We had a lot of interceptions this week. Jack Jones, cornerback / safety for New England. 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. That interception went to the house. He had 4 assisted tackles, 3 solo. Just a monster week from him. Andre Cisco early in that game had a pick 6 from 59 yards out. 3 more solo tackles and another tackle assisted. Tariq Woolen also had a pick 6 on the day. Other people with some monster interception days. LaMarcus Joyner had 2 interceptions. And the interceptions didn't just stop at the cornerback position. No. Von Bell, 2 interceptions. Jordan Poyer, 2 interceptions. Just a great day to be a defensive player. Tyrann Mathieu had a pick. Jalen Thompson had a pick. Jordan Whitehead had 2 picks, but one of them got called back. But, and Minkah. Yeah. Ho-hum, Minkah Fitzpatrick, another interception on the year. That guy might be a dark horse guy for defensive MVP if he keeps playing the way that he has been playing. But yeah, let's talk about some solid week 4 action. Going from that, we're going to dive into some free agents. I'm going to start with the D-line. Rashawn Green for Houston. Now, this guy might not be out there anymore, but it is Houston, and people might not pay attention as much. But he's had a red-hot start. He had another sack and a half sack this week, another quarterback hit, and he had 3 total tackles, on one of those for a loss. He needs to be rostered at the least. That team has a good defense. We've talked about him week in and week out. Lovie Smith has him playing well. He's a guy that you might want to pick up if you're needing some help. And speaking of needing some help, with Randy Gregory hurting his knee this week, Baron Browning for Denver might be the guy to grab. With Gregory having knee surgery and going to be out multiple weeks, we'll see how fast he actually can get back to the field. But Baron Browning is going to be the guy until he gets back on the field. It's imperative to grab that guy, especially if you're a Gregory owner or somebody that just needs some depth / starter capability coming from the defensive end spot. That defense has been strong, stout. It's a great scheme. Baron Browning is the next man up in that situation. Looking into linebackers, I'm going to talk about Zaire Franklin finally. Shaq Leonard's back. He came back this week, only to get a concussion in the first half. Actually given to him by Zaire Franklin on accident, friendly fire there. With the short turnaround, Shaq's not going to play this week. Franklin, once again, had a massive tackle output, 8 solos, 7 assisted. He'll be, again, a great start at this point. And he was starting with Leonard, so he might have already taken over Bobby Okereke as the second guy. So at this point in time, you got to feel like he's a year-long starter and grab him because he's in a great linebacker scheme. Another linebacker we need to talk about, and I didn't honestly think that this is a guy that we were going to talk about, but Jalen Smith, who's now former Dallas Cowboy, is now signed with the New York Giants. He washed out of the league pretty much last season. He went between Dallas, Green Bay, and then New York, and he played a halftime role. He didn't play a full game on Sunday, but he had 6 solo tackles and 1 for loss and an assist in that game. As we talked about, Tay Crowder has massive opportunity, but isn't necessarily what I would call a really, really great linebacker. There's the opportunity that Jalen could get more and more time on this team. And even with just half the snaps, he was able to make such an impact. There's the opportunity that he could actually be rediscovered or have a resurgence here in New York. Keep an eye on him. If you have a deep league, it might be worth a grab to see just how that plays out. Moving on to safeties, Cameron Bynum for Minnesota. He's a sophomore year. We thought that he was going to step up this year, and then they went out and signed or drafted Lewis Cine. Well, Harrison Smith missed time in 2021, and Cameron Bynum looked good in that time. But now, Scene's now out for the season with a lower leg fracture. So he has some immediate staying power as a Vikings secondary, stalwart. Is he going to light the world on fire? No. I mean, he had some monster weeks last year in weeks 9 and 10, but he's a guy that you can count on. He's going to have the opportunity, as we always talk about how valuable opportunity is. And, I mean, in week 4, he had 4 solo tackles and 2 assists. That's nothing to shake your head at safeties. On a week that all these safeties had interceptions, you might feel a little bit down with a guy like Cameron Bynum, or he might be overlooked on the waiver wire, and make sure that this is a guy that you can get that's going to, basically he's got no competition anymore. Another guy to keep an eye on, this is a little bit more short-term, but Myles Hartsfield out of Carolina. Jeremy Chinn hurt his hamstring early in the game Sunday, and those kind of injuries are not good once you're in the season. So grab Hartsfield. He subbed in for Chinn. He got 6 solo tackles, and a forced fumble. And once again, if he is the starting role until Chinn gets back, that's a great opportunity. They're going to keep that scheme the same. It's been great for Jeremy Chinn, who is more talented, but that doesn't mean that Hartsfield's not going to get the opportunity to make some big plays. And finally, moving to cornerbacks, there's really only one that I kind of feel like talking about this week. It's Kader Kohou for Miami. First off, if you don't know who that is, yeah, I understand. He is an undrafted free agent out of Texas A&M Commerce. And his name's Kader, so that's awesome. But once again, an undrafted rookie, and he has taken this Dolphins defense by storm. Byron Jones is still out. He's not coming back. They haven't even activated him on the 21-day. It's a slower mend than what they were expecting off of his Achilles / lower leg injury. So he's not coming back for week 5. Xavier Howard hurt his groin. He's been fighting a groin injury the last couple weeks, but he hurt his groin again on Thursday. So Kohou's going to be starting. I mean, he's going to be starting. He's playing against Zach Wilson, who throws the ball, but also throws the ball poorly. So he has the opportunity. Week 1, he made a name for himself, having a great game. And he finished with 6 solo tackles against the Bengals. So if you need a fill-in at the corner, grab Kohou. All right, now that we're done with the free agent conversation, let's go ahead and just talk about the overall stud so far this year. Not just necessarily week by week, but let's say, okay, we've had a little bit of time here. There's a decent amount of data out there, 4 games. So let's start talking about it. We'll go backwards as we did before. So we'll start with the safeties. Big time safeties so far this year. 4 interceptions for Jordan Poyer. 4 interceptions so far this year. He doesn't have a lot of tackles, though, with only 9 solo, 3 assisted. But that guy is making big plays. And you gotta, and he's only played 3 of the 4 games. So there's the opportunity that he's gonna continue to get better. Speaking of guys with interceptions, Minkah Fitzpatrick, 3 picks on the season, higher in the tackle totals with 19 solo, 13 assisted. And oh yeah, he has an interception out of 3 of the 4 games, so he's balanced in his scoring, which is even better. And one of those he took to the house. First one of the season, but still. The fact that he's so consistent with his high-volume plays is extremely impressive. Other guys that have had some solid interceptions so far, Eddie Jackson for Chicago. Marcus Williams had 3 picks in the first 2 games of the season. Von Bell had 2, but they were both last week. Andre Cisco has 2. One of them was to the house this last week. And in the top 10 is Tololona Hufanga for the safety for San Francisco that is essentially came a little bit out of nowhere. He's got 2 picks, 1 for a touchdown, 20 solo tackles, and 5 tackles assisted. Somebody that is worth their weight in gold at this point in time if you can grab them. And I want to talk about Jalen Petrie, but we'll wait until we get to the rookie report out. So let's start looking at some of the cornerbacks. James Bradbury's got a couple picks, 8 solo tackles, 2 assisted, 4 passes defended on the year. So he's doing what they expected him to do there in Philly. Bryce Callahan also has a couple interceptions. 9 solo tackles, 5 assisted, so a little bit more in that game. And also 4 passes defended. Trevin Diggs, I am honestly impressed. He's got 2 picks already this year. But the thing that I've been more impressed about, and I talked about it a little bit last week, is he now has 9 solo tackles and 1 tackle assisted, so 10 in the first 4 games. A little bit higher volume than I was expecting to see. But 9 passes defended. He got his coverage a little bit tighter. He's not maybe taking as many risks, or is he? And they're still just kind of throwing it to him. But he is still playing like a top-tier corner, which I will admit, when I'm wrong, that is a guy I did not expect. It is early in the season, but I did not expect him to repeat as a high-volume kind of guy. Speaking of Philly, they've also got Darius Slay up there. He's also got a couple picks, 5 passes defended. The Eagles cornerback team is looking a lot like last year's Dallas cornerback team, where 3 of the guys were in the top 20 by the end of the season. These guys are up early. It's forcing the other teams to pass on them, and they're taking advantage of the opportunities that they have. Moving on to linebackers. Now, this is one that I always think near and dear to my heart. I love the linebackers. Devin White for Tampa Bay currently has 25 solo tackles, 10 assisted, but 3 sacks and a forced fumble so far this year. Roquan Smith has a pick, 26 solo tackles, 20 tackles assisted, and a half sack so far this year. Frankie Louvu, the guy out of nowhere this year, so far 25 solo tackles, 7 tackles assisted, 1 pick 6, and a forced fumble. Alex Highsmith is off to a great start. 5.5 sacks so far this year and a forced fumble. Put that with 16 solo tackles, 8 assisted. And he's also got some hurries in there as well. Jordan Hicks, currently ranked in the top 5 linebackers. 26 solo tackles, 12 assisted, a sack, an interception, and a forced fumble. You know who you don't see on the list of the top 20 guys? Eric Kendricks. Kind of a shame, you know. Jordan Hicks came in and said, "This is my team now," and has essentially done that. Devin Lloyd is in the top 10. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Mikael Walker for Atlanta has 25 solo, 8 assisted, a couple tackles for loss, a sack, a pick, and a forced fumble. Nick Bolton, 2 sacks, 26 solo, 11 assisted. He has been outstanding this year, and we talked about him earlier as a pickup. Zaire Franklin is in the top 10 as far as linebackers go, with 30 solo tackles, 15 assisted tackles, but no big plays. So consistency, yes, but that's kind of where we're at. Now, the guy that leads the league in tackles so far, Pete Werner, 32 tackles solo, 9 tackles assisted. He's got a pass defended, a tackle for loss, and a forced fumble. Once again, not another guy that doesn't have a whole lot of massive big-time plays, but his consistency has been outstanding this year. So far this year, he has not had a game with less than 8 tackles. He's had games of 13, 8, 10, and 9. You're getting that baseline that's just phenomenal with a guy like that. So moving on to D tackles. Now, it depends on your league, but you either have a guy named Grady Jarrett at the top of the D tackle list, or you have a guy named Gregory Rousseau if he's D tackle eligible in some leagues. So we'll talk about Rousseau when we get to D end. But Grady Jarrett, 3.5 sacks. Just an outstanding start to the season. And he's got 10 solo tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 5 assisted tackles. Jonathan Allen has a couple sacks, but more so he's got 12 tackles for solo tackles, 5 assisted. A couple pass defenses knocking that ball down, and 7 tackles for loss. Aaron Donald, everybody's okay, well, where's Aaron Donald? He's not in the top 5 right now, but he's got 2 sacks, 10 solo tackles, 5 assisted tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and a fumble recovery. They're putting pressure on him like they always do. Jeffrey Simmons, another big-name guy for the Tennessee Titans. Got a couple sacks, 5 tackle solos, 7 tackles assisted. Got a few pass defenses, a decent amount of hurries, a fumble forced. He's on the board. He's in the top 10, as he has been. Guys that are a little bit surprised on there. B.J. Hill has had a great start to the season. 12 tackles assisted, 5 tackles solo, sack and a half. Kwity Paye, DND tackle type player for the Colts. 3 sacks there, 12 solo tackles. And then we have Daron Payne for Washington. 2 sacks, 7 solo, 8 assisted. D tackles are not exactly what you would call some of the most exciting players, per se. But it does have a place in leagues as far as guys that you're like, well, who's really doing the job as a sack artist? Well, we talked about, a Gregory Rousseau, but there's also a Rashad Weaver. Depending on your league, he's kind of available all over the place because people don't know. Danico Autry, Fletcher Cox, Quinnen Williams, all those guys are above 2 sacks or more. All guys that you can start week in and week out when you're playing D tackles. But when we start talking about the D ends, as I talked about, Gregory Rousseau, 4 sacks. Nick Bosa leading the league, 6 sacks. Alex Highsmith, D end linebacker, is at 5.5 as far as, guys that are kind of leading the league. Max Crosby is a top 2 D end with 4 sacks so far this year, 18 solo, 9 assisted, and 8 tackles for loss. Jerry Hughes, we've talked about him. He's had 2 big games and 2 not very big games, giving him 4 sacks on the year. Deatrick Wise, who had 1 massive game and the rest are okay. He had 3 sacks against Baltimore in week 3 and a sack against Miami in week 1. Outside of that, has been kind of quiet. Brian Burns is for Carolina is another player. He's had, a couple big games, but he's had some more consistency when it comes to tackles. But he had 2 sacks against the Giants, a sack last week against Arizona. But he's keeping his tackle numbers pretty high. That's helping him out as well. So with that being said, we're going to kind of move on to the rookies. Because that's kind of, let's go with some dynasty talk here, Seth. Let's talk about some of these guys that are taking care of the business, as you will. Now, let's start with the DNs on this one. Number 1 on the list, Aiden Hutchinson. That's not telling the whole story. Aiden Hutchinson's leading the DNs with sacks with 3. But he had all 3 in one game. He followed that solid game up with no tackles, no assisted tackles, no passes defended, nothing, just 1 hurry. So quite a massive letdown, especially if you might have had him sitting on your bench week that week before when he blew up and then had that kind of drop off. Now, with that being said, Trayvon Walker has had a great start to the year. He has had 1 sack and he has had 1 interception, but he's had 8 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 5 assisted tackles. So he's kind of been a little bit more on that level playing field. He's having that opportunity. He's still had some down games as rookies do, but he's been pretty stable. Another guy that we talked about this offseason that we thought could have a nice career or nice start to his rookie year, Boye Mafe, Seattle Seahawks. He's currently got 1 sack, but he's got 10 tackles solo, 3 tackles assisted, a few hurries in there, tackle for loss. He's getting the opportunity. He's kind of growing. Once again, you're going to have these guys that are hit or miss. That's just part of it. George Karlaftis, another big name that we kind of talk about. Doesn't have a sack yet on the year. Not from lack of trying. This guy is trying to get after that quarterback. He's got 5 hurries on the season. He's got 5 solo tackles, 4 assisted tackles, a few pass defenders, getting those hands up. But overall, a little bit quiet to start the year. But the opportunities are there. Now, Kayvon Thibodeau. He didn't get a start this season. He missed the first 2 weeks. And since then, he's had 3 solo tackles, 2 assisted, a pass defense, and a fumble recovery. Okay, not great. Okay. Once again, they're rookies. They're guys that we just kind of are expecting who they thought they were. You know, we know that they're not going to be out. There was nobody in this class that was going to be massively consistent. And that's just the way it is. That's just how it's going to be. So when we start looking at D tackles, the best D tackles so far out of the rookies, Jordan Davis, but that's not saying a lot. I mean, there's really been nobody worth value. Jordan Davis had his best game of the year so far against Jacksonville. He had 2 assisted tackles, 2 solo tackles, and a tackle for loss. He's yet to record a sack. He's got a pass defense in a hurry. They're using him, as we expected, to basically block out the sun. That's his goal. Logan Hall, another big-name guy that people kind of want to, well, you know, how he's doing. He's got 1 sack on the year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But outside of that, like last week, he goose-egged completely. And he's had 2 complete zero games. First game, he only had a solo tackle. And it's just, it's not a good year to be a D tackle. It's just not. There's not a lot out there that you feel confident with. You're going to get much out of the rookies. Now we start looking at linebackers. As I said, we were going to talk a little bit about Devin Lloyd. This dude is a top 10 linebacker out of all linebackers so far. He's got 2 interceptions, 20 tackles solo, 18 assisted tackles. He has been the heart and soul of this Jacksonville defense, just absolutely setting the world on fire. So who's the next best linebacker in this class so far? First off, it's a bit of a drop-off. Second off, it's not a guy you'd expect. Malcolm Rodriguez, rookie for Detroit. Now, he's got 24 solo tackles, 9 assisted, no other big plays at that point in time. He's got a couple hurries, a couple tackles for loss, but nothing massive there. He's just a guy that's getting it done with opportunity. Quay Walker is the 3rd best rookie so far. He's got 18 solo tackles, 8 assisted, and a tackle for loss. He came really out of the gate week 1 and had a great week. Since then, he's been stable. He's averaging about 5 total tackles a week. This last week, he had a little bit of a bump up with 7. And week 1, he had 8 total tackles. So, no massive plays out there. But he's doing all right. Jermaine Johnson, linebacker DN. We don't know really where to put him. He had his best game last week where he had his first full sack, 3 solo tackles, a tackle for loss, and a tackle assisted. He had a half sack week 1. Week 2, not much, a couple assisted tackles. So, they are bouncing around. That's what we kind of expected. Now, moving on to some cornerbacks, that's where we get a little bit interesting because these guys have played some pretty good football, but we expect that. As we talked about in the offseason, rookie cornerbacks have opportunities, and that's what makes them great. So, with that being said, guys, we're going to talk about 2 on the top right now, a little bit skewed. It's Jalen Watson for Kansas City and Tariq Woolen for Seattle. Both of those guys have a pick 6. Woolen has 2 interceptions on the season, but they're a little bit skewed just because of, having that touchdown in there. But Watson does have 14 solo tackles, 4 passes defended, 3 assisted, but he does have that 99-yard touchdown return from Kansas City on Thursday Night Football. And then Tariq Woolen has 11 solo, 2 assisted. The sustainability there, it seems like it's going to be a little bit more boom or bust. For Tennessee, Roger McCreary, 26 total tackles or assisted tackles, 26 solo, 4 assisted so far this year. But let's talk about the guys that people want to talk about. Let's talk about Derek Stingley Jr. He's got 18 solo, 5 assisted, 1 sack, so they're using him that way as well. 3 passes defended. And then Sauce Gardner, 10 solo tackles, 5 assisted, 5 passes defended, and a tackle for a loss. These guys are playing extremely well for rookies. They're not really letting a lot get by them. They're playing well. They're getting a lot of pass defended, but they are getting opportunities for the tackles. And let's talk about just one guy because we brought him up in the free agency, Kader Kohou. He's got, so far this year, 15 tackles solo, 1 tackle assisted, 1 pass defended, and 1 forced fumble so far on the year. So he's got a decent, a little bit of stat fill out there as well. But there's a reason that he's out there as a free agent. Some of these other guys we're expecting to do a little bit better. And it's just snap percentages haven't been there for Kader either, so that's something to take into account. Now we talk about the safeties. Jalen Petrie, come on down. Granted, he had one massive game. Let's not, I'm not blind to that. But he's had solid games throughout this year. He had week 1, 5 solo tackles, 5 assisted tackles. Week 2, 2 solo, 3 assisted. Week 3, 5 solo, 3 assisted, 2 pass defended, 2 interceptions, fumble recovery, and a sack. God, that was a beautiful week. But then he came back with 3 solo, 4 assisted, and a tackle for a loss. He's getting the tackle numbers for a high floor, but then he has the opportunity for a massively high ceiling. Other guys, Jaquan Brisker, he's had a great start to the year as well. 19 solo tackles, 6 assisted. He's got a sack, a fumble recovery, a couple pass defense, a hurry, a safety as well. He is what I expected him to be. He's got opportunities on a team that doesn't have a great offense. So that's kind of what we expect. The one guy that we have to talk about is Kyle Hamilton. Man, this guy has not been doing it this year. So far this year, he's got 6 solo tackles, 4 assisted tackles, and 1 pass defense. Last week, goose egg in a very, very competitive game with Buffalo. It's a worrisome thing. They're not using him as much as I thought at the start of the year. He's not getting the snap percentages. Maybe that defense is quite hard to learn. Maybe he's just not able to put it all together at this point in time. Maybe he's just getting outplayed. I mean, Marcus Williams is tearing up that safety position in this defense right now. So what is going on? We're just going to have to wait and see. He might be a very, very good candidate for DEFCON situation when we're talking about dynasty players. It is early, so that's part of it. But holy cow, when you're putting up goose eggs and you're only getting 20 to 30% of your snap counts, there's a giant red flag that is waving over your head because something just doesn't add up. Well, with that being said, that kind of does it for tonight, guys. Once again, keep an eye on snap counts. Focus on your defensive aspects. I'm going to be honest, I'm in a dynasty league where I took over for a team, and it is horrendous. But I am now, I should be 0-4 in my opinion, but I am now 2-2 because I focused my attention to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm getting guys that are scoring 20 points a week consistently. Look at the matchups. If you're playing the Baltimore Ravens or a team's playing the Baltimore Ravens, look at their middle linebackers. If they're available, they're going to get the tackles. If you're playing against the Buffalo Bills, they're throwing the ball, safeties and corners. Look at the pass to run ratios of some of these offenses. Now that we have more data on them, on how this is looking, you're going to get the opportunities if you look at it that way. You have to know that they're going to game script it. So if it's a team that's probably not going to win, it's going to be a bit of a blowout. Linebackers, D tackles, D ends, if you're only worried about tackles, it's going to help out. But overall, just keep being patient. Keep an eye on the waiver wire. Focus on getting players, especially now that bye weeks are about to start. People are going to drop defensive players, not realizing that they have the opportunity to win you weeks. So as always, enjoy Thursday Night Football, and remember that defense wins fantasy. We'll see you next week.